What's the word? What's the word?
All right. Listen, it's been a minute, and that's just because minutes go by. But there is so much to talk about this week, so we're going to get right into it. My name is Chris. His name is Steve Swift. That is the man with the plan, looking like a dapper Dan today. Holy smokes, look at him. You'd think that football was on over there or something. But anyways, I digress. We're going to talk some boxing, not football, not soccer, not extracurricular activities. We're going to talk boxing, which has become an extracurricular activity for some. Yes, I'm looking at you, James Degale. And we're going to talk about his BKFC. Was it a hit? Was it a miss? Will we see him back in boxing or BKFC for that matter? We're going to talk a little bit of Boots Crawford, or Boots and Crawford are beefing. Boots Ennis says that Crawford should not be on the boxing Mount Rushmore. So I want to get your take on who you think should be on a boxing Mount Rushmore as well. We're also going to talk Anthony Joshua is in clear need of a new opponent, or is this strategic marketing because he's also been taken from the rankings from Ring Magazine as well? We're going to talk a little bit about that. I have some things I'd like to discuss in the thing about boxing betting lines. And are they really necessary, or is it a clear giveaway of how some lopsided matches happen in boxing and why people have a disdain for it? And most importantly, Tank Davis himself is saying that boxing is dead while getting ready for his ever so spectacular over-the-top battle, rumble thing with Jake Paul. Jake, don't call it a fixed fight, Paul. It's just an exhibition against a man who's 300 pounds lighter than you, and you're going to be wearing foxy boxing gloves. But we're going to get into that a little bit later on. First and foremost, Steve, how the hell are you? What's been going on, brother?
I'm very well, thank you. It's nice here. It's temperate. I'm wearing a shirt which I then realised after I'd worn it today looks like the kit that Manchester United were wearing when they defeated my beloved Liverpool in the FA Cup final in 1977. However, I won't be taking it off as it cost a load of money.
Well, I mean, and it looks fancy as hell. For those
It
of
is
you
fancy.
Thank you so much. For those of you that are listening, maybe go over on YouTube or go to World Weary Guy 1 and you can see pictures of this, I'm sure, that are posted, because that's where you're going to get the link to Steve's OnlyFans. It's a good looking shirt, Steve. It's a hell of a good looking shirt.
I'll be doing things with a shirt that you should not do with a shirt. It'll need a stubborn stains wash after that OnlyFans routine. Let me tell you that.
Hey, I heard it's the best bargain that side of the Mississippi. That's all I'm saying. So let's talk a little bit of boxing. What do you want to talk about first? Let's talk about your fellow Brit, a man who decided to wander away from the pack, so to speak. James Degale decided he was going to go make some money. And the only reason we're talking about BKFC on a boxing show is because if you think about it, from its bare bones, BKFC is old school, 1,000 rounds, two guys go in there and, there's not even ropes. They're just in the middle of a pit of a bunch of people having a fist fight. But that's what that is. Did you see this fiasco of a fight that was 3 points deducted from his opponent, 1 point deducted from him? They're inside, the BKFC ring is small enough as it is. What did you think of your fellow countryman's performance?
When you say performance, I not only enjoyed the fight. When I say enjoyed, I mean enjoyed in a certain way. I not only enjoyed that fight for what it was, and it was a fight, but I enjoyed the lead up to that as well, because James Degale, he fought Matt Floyd, who was some kind of gang member in Australia, apparently a gang member.
Allegedly
a gang member, and he's got a mohawk, so he must be tough. And whereas I favour the sweep, which is not as tough, but it's still lovely. I saw them head to head on some kind of social media thing before we even got to the press conference. James Degale, he seemed disinterested. He didn't seem entirely together, which caused people to have some problems with that and to comment on that. And he also, talking about being prepared for the fight, he was eating crisps during that. So he was eating a corn-based snack mixture, and the fight was on the following week. I then saw the press conference in which two blokes got up, and I don't know who they were. One bloke got up and said, I really respect you, but you're not going to beat him. You're not going to put him down. He's really good. And the other one who said, well, if you beat him, will this be retribution for losing the Commonwealth Games? And James Degale said, no, it was ages ago. I won the Olympics in 2004. The bloke then said, no, 2006, mate. It was 2008, both of you. It was just ridiculous.
So everybody was drunk.
But he was entirely wrong. And I just thought this, and they kept saying tickets available. And I thought it's only a few days away. So that, and then the fight itself, I just thought maybe what James Degale was doing, because he seemed up for it, what he was doing was maybe he was disinterested because he was thinking, so far below me. This is all, I don't know, but maybe he's thinking this is so far below me, this bare knuckle fighting thing. But Matt Ford, he came to fight. I mean, there was a headbutt. He clinched. There was a headbutt. He took him down with a guillotine at one point. I mean, the ref did more work than both of those fighters.
Yeah, and it looks like James Degale was, he came out the victor in it for what it's worth, I guess. But what it was worth was probably a decent payday, because this was a Manchester fight. You're talking about a guy who's James Degale is a name in boxing. So if you can secure a name like that, fantastic. He's another guy, came up through the Olympics, fantastic. I mean, he had a draw with Badu Jack. His only loss was to Chris Eubank Jr. recently. So and now here's my question for you, Steve. Did James Degale just throw his name back into the hat because he said he doesn't want to return to bare knuckle, but he's not ruling out going back to boxing? So let me throw this out at you. Has James Degale secured one of two fights, and which of these two fights would you rather see? Darren Till or your friend Carl Froch?
Well, what I think we could do is have a three-way fight with Froch, Hill, and Degale, all in at the same time. You could have it in a pub car park, have some hay bales or something like that, or people just surrounding the ring. Do it like that. I mean, he called some people out, didn't he? And I can't remember who that was, but it wasn't. Till was one of them, wasn't he? Till was one of them. I mean, everyone is now looking for that legends promotion money. That's what I'm going to say. So they all want to put their name out there. I mean, it's just a bit. There was one punch thrown, and that was James Degale. He hit with one overhand left, I think it was. That was it, and he won because Mr. Floyd had 3 points taken away.
Right, like with a score of 3 to -4. Like, what? That was ridiculous. But here's what brings me to my next question then, because clearly you have a guy who's retired from boxing, come back to do this, now says that he's open to fighting. You have guys like, we've seen it in the past with many fighters. Pacquiao just had it, where he's come back to fighting at an age. We're going to see Floyd Mayweather come back and fight Pacquiao next year. We've said it, and I'm going to continue to say it. We've seen these old Carl Froch begging for a fight to come back. All these guys coming back to fight. Why is it that Tank Davis seems to think that boxing is dead and Teofimo Lopez certainly said, and I'm paraphrasing, if it's dead, why are all these guys showing up to the gym to stay relevant? Is it just dead to Tank Davis, or is boxing where it was? Is it declining? Is it growing? What do you think?
Well, I'll sit on the fence. I'll have splinters in my capacious arse cheeks, because I think a bit of both. It's definitely finished for Davis. I mean, that you could you could see that there is a fight he's not taking. We know what that is. There is a fight that he's not taking. And he clearly is taking this fight with Jake Paul, in my view, and I could be wrong, and it's only my opinion. I'm not a journalist, but he's taking this fight because that's something that's roll up. And so it's not really boxing. And as we say, we'll talk more about the exhibition nature of this in a minute, I suspect. But the other thing is that while it's so diluted, then it isn't. It doesn't look in rude health. But because he may be tainted in his view of that, he's only seeing certain bits of it. I think it is actually, if you look at it a different way, it is in rude health, because all of the chips, all of the cards are in play now. Everything's in play, and it's a whole new world. It really is. It's beginning to be. And the UBO will pick that up and say, we'll just have the whole universe. It'll be like the Marvel universe. Everybody can do everything they want. So we've got different alternate realities here, and everyone can fight anyone. So we're going to have to change the way we think, I reckon, about boxing. And promoters will say, well, hang on, what about the legitimacy of this? If I say it's legitimate, it is. I think it's going to be that. So I think he's leaning into that a bit, but clearly he's lost the taste. And if he doesn't watch it, he will retire, and he won't even get that taste of the Legends money.
It's funny you talk about like the Legends money of it. It's clearly, some would say that Tank's burnt out. To his own admission, he's burnt out. The stuff, it just hasn't been there for him. But he doesn't come from a boxing family. He doesn't have that kind of lineage behind it. You know what I mean? So I can understand why he's trying to, and I guarantee along the way, Tank Davis, like most other boxers that age, that young, with that much fame and fortune, were taken advantage of by other people and bilk him of all of his time, his money, his everything. It happens. It always happens. Don King, I'm looking in your direction. Here's my question, though. Is he just not saying that he's going to be fighting Ryan Garcia after this? Because you have to ask yourself, where does he go? Where does Tank go from this? He's not going to get, even if he does decide to take a Lamont Roach rematch, he's not going to get the payday that he thinks he's going to get for doing that. And he sets himself up to lose. So he's not, right? But he can continue doing another exhibition fight after doing this Jake Paul one, and he can do it with another fellow YouTuber that he's already fought before, who's got serious, trying to come back, and that's Ryan Garcia.
That's absolutely a great call. Great call. And it is because it doesn't seem to matter now. We talked when we started doing this, which seems, I mean, there were no cars on the road when we started doing this. We said that Ryan Garcia was one of the first things we talked about was, does he need the legitimacy of the belt, or can he do this by being a brand? And it's been fits and starts for him, but actually, generally, boxing has answered that question, which is that you can do this by just being a brand. So yes, fighting with nothing at stake apart from pride, but with an enormous hoopla around it, would be something that they could work towards. I think it's. You're right that you get burnt out. I don't think that Ryan Garcia's burnt out in that respect. I think he's still at it and enjoying it in that respect. But I think that, anybody who saw him, and I know I keep talking about this because I find it outrageous, going down to one knee and having his face wiped in the Roach match, I think that was clear. It was clear. It was the same as turning your back on the referee and having a meltdown. So yes, I think he's completely burnt out.
But you have to equate that. You have to equate that to referee's fault. The referee did not handle that situation. As a boxer, as a fighter, he's just in there in a mode and doing his thing. He could have been looking at this entire thing like this is just an overglorified sparring session for me right now. And or just a lapse of judgment. It's the referee's job to make sure that that gets taken care of. He is the disciplinary force inside of that ring when rules are broken. So that whole thing, I blame the referee for not taking care of that one right out the gate. I also think that we've talked about this before, that fighters will try to push the boundaries inside of there. And if he's suffering from burnout and doesn't want to be there in the first place, why are we forcing these guys to fight with these contracts? Let them go do what they want to do for fun, find the love that they once had for the sport of boxing, right? And get back into it for that. Because eventually the reason that they got into it 9 times out of 10 is not because they're going to be sitting there going, I'm going to be a legend. I'm going to be a guy who's 40 years into this business and you're still going to be talking about me. No, they do it because they're like, holy shit, these guys make what? And I can make this in a quick thing. So I'm going to get into this. What you're finding more is guys are getting into it for the business end of it rather than the boxing end of it. Thankfully, we have some guys that are out there that are upcoming, like the Brian Norman Juniors, of the world, who still love the game of boxing. But Tank is moving over. He's moving over to the other side while he still can. And I think that's great. Give us some fights. Give us that Ryan Garcia fight that you can. That also brings me to the point that what you said is that we're getting to the stage where we don't need to have a title on the line. We don't need to have ramifications. We don't even need to have rankings on the line. So let me ask you about this one then, Steve, because it looks like Anthony Joshua needs a new partner, needs a new dance partner, and he is no longer even top 10. He hasn't fought in over a year since being, knocked out from the young kid, Daniel Dubois. He has not been active doing anything. And now he's been removed from Ring Magazine's rankings, not even in the top 10. And everybody's going, oh my God, how could you have him? I think, and tell me what you think on this, but I think this is strategic to get him out of the rankings. So now you can finally have him against your boy, the fight that we've all been waiting for forever and ever and ever, Tyson Fury.
Yeah, let me just roll back a bit, because the point you make about the referee in the face wiping situation, that he didn't do that, actually says to people of influencer boxing and all of that, that's all right, you can do what you want. It's actually okay. We don't need to look at the rules here. So that feeds into all of that as well. Gives people just a starting gun to say, oh, actually, Floyd Mayweather switched the referee out. But even in legitimate boxing, it doesn't really matter. Anthony Joshua, he said, segueing beautifully, is neither influencer nor legitimate. And Eddie Hearn is not, I don't believe, doing him any favors whatsoever. Because what he's saying is, we got loads of irons in the fire. So many fucking irons in the fire, there's no fucking fire left. We can't get in the fire because there's so many irons in it. So he said the other day, we've got a list of 10 people. And if I'm Anthony Joshua, I'm thinking, I want to fight. I want to fight. I was prepared to fight Tony Yoka. You talked about Jake Paul. I was prepared to fight that in a kind of roll up way. You talked about Tyson Fury. I'm prepared to have that fight. Now you're talking about possibly having Daniel Dubois again. I wanted to go to Ghana. Sadly, that possibly won't be happening now because of the sad issue there, around box to death and all of that. So who can I fight? The Tyson Fury fight, it ain't happening. I'm telling you, I'm calling this now. It ain't happening because Tyson Fury will fight Alexander Usyk when he's back from playing football. He didn't put in a very good. I mean, He wasn't great. He won't be playing for the mighty Liverpool anytime soon or anything like that. But he's been, on the football field and dancing around, staying alive. And, once his back is healed, he'll drop all those belts and he'll be fighting Tyson Fury for nothing apart from that. What I think Anthony Joshua should do. I'll explain it to you again if but I am holding on to this. I'm holding on to this story. I really am, because I desperately want a British tour.
Okay. All right. Well, I personally think that the reason that Anthony Joshua isn't getting any of those fights is because his handlers, his trainers, his bosses know that he has one fight left. That's it. One fight left. And the way that he's been fighting, he's going to get knocked out again. So, which fight is going to make the most sense? That's clearly what they're looking at, because they've got one more payday on this pony, right? And I'm telling you, the holdout is Tyson Fury, because that's the biggest one. That's the one that's been eluding the both of them forever and ever and ever. But Tyson Fury, to you right now, is like, I want Alexander Usyk. He hasn't come to terms with himself. And we all know the first step is admitting that you have a problem. And he hasn't done that yet and admitted that he's not getting that title shot. He can have that fight, but he's not getting that title shot. So you might as well make the money in the biggest fight. 2 Brits, O2 Arena. Fill that thing to the brim and then some for the fight that's been wanting to happen for years and years and years. Special referee, Alexander Usyk. I think that's the way you go with this.
I know you're right. I just don't want you to be right, but I know you're right. Yes, I mean, Usyk. In the great thing would be, and it's a wrestling trope, but a great thing would be is, whose corner are you going to be in, Mr. Elizabeth? Whose corner are you going to be in? So all of that. So are you going to be in AJ's corner because you fought them both, or are you going to be in Tyson Fury's corner? Who is it going to be? I mean, it would be a fantastic fight. I mean, not a fantastic. I mean, I'm not interested in the boxing of it,
Sure.
but the business of it, I'm very interested in that, because it's the biggest British fight in recent times. In fact, the biggest British fight we've ever had, probably.
So, what would you give the betting line? What would you give the betting line right now if you were to put Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua?
The thing is, it's difficult because Fury's not. He's not a big dynamite puncher, not anymore. So if he was in with the dynamite puncher, then I would be heavily favouring Tyson Fury if he was a big dynamite puncher. But it's going to be close.
Here's what I would say. I would say Tyson Fury minus 210 to Anthony Joshua's plus 135.
You see, all this stuff. Explain this to me and everybody else, because I don't. However, I know how popular this is, because this dominates all of the kind of. Let's look at the betting lines now. That dominates it, and there's more talk about the betting lines than there is about boxing in the commentary.
100% there is, and this leads me to my question, because there's a lot of fights like that one where it would be closely contested. You just talk about the rematch between Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. coming up. That is a very close lines on the betting lines. But then listen to this, you have some betting lines, okay? Inoue's next fight against Alan Romero. Inoue is coming in at a minus 4,500 to Romero's plus 1,600. Boots Ennis's next fight against Wisma Lima, he's a minus 2,400 to plus 1,140. Even Joseph Parker, Fabio Wardley, Parker is a minus 700 to Wardley's plus 430 in a heavyweight bout. These are ridiculous lines that show me that boxing clearly is a mismatched sport a lot of times, especially on the lines. So why is it that you would have such a tight line between a Tyson Fury and an Anthony Joshua? I would say 2-1 because both of them lost their last fights. Both of them are older in years, but I think you have to give the edge to Tyson Fury because Anthony Joshua was knocked the F out in his last one. So Tyson Fury has a slight edge, but you don't give him too much. That's why I'm saying like 2-1. 2-1 is fair in that fight, I think. Not 4,000 to 1. That's ridiculous. Why are we having this fight? Why is this being contested? You're telling me that the number one contender for a title is 4,000 times less than the champion? That's ridiculous. Tighten these things up, Vegas. You're going to make more money off of the betting lines if you tighten them up a little bit more. Give these guys a little bit more of a chance to, make the lines get moved by the people, not by the prospect.
But if we take this in a wider context, and you're quite right, it's the legitimization of this, isn't it? So in the past we had shady deals, and we had boxers who took money to, we have famous boxers who allegedly did that. And it was a shady situation, men in big coats and hats, with brown envelopes and all of that. Now what you've got is technology which says, we're just going to show you the technology. We've rebranded this. This is now out in the open. Look how shiny this is. Look how this is shining and flashing at you. So all of that, you've got your energy drinks, and then you've got your betting. So you got that, and then the betting lines come in from that. So that legitimizes it. And what it says is, actually, this is an integral part of boxing. You can't have boxing without betting. That's what it's really saying. And that we're talking about it now shows how successful that's been.
For years and years and years. The Fundora-Thurman match. That one's currently, they're saying Fundora is a minus 480 to Keith Thurman's plus 320. I don't think the line is that tight. What they're saying is that, you're not going to make any money betting on Fundora for sure. You got to put a lot down to make any kind of money off of it. But plus 320, you might as well have given Thurman plus 1140 in this one. It's not that tight in a fight like that.
Unless Keith Thurman, I don't know if you've seen this video on YouTube, unless he gets the recorder and plays a really soothing tune and Fundora goes to sleep in the ring and then he whacks him on the way down and that's it. Probably.
Let me ask you about this one. Is Jack Catterall the smartest guy in boxing right now? And the reason that I say this is because Jack Catterall has moved camps. It looks like Jack Catterall has gotten complacent, has learned of his complacency, even though he came off of a win against Harlem Eubank, his last fight. But he's left jolly old England for the finer shores of ever so pleasant Philadelphia. Go Eagles, go Birds, all day long. Look at them, all back there. There we go, right? So, and he's taken up with Boots Ennis' dad, Derek Ennis. So now he's fighting in a gym alongside of guys like Stephen Fulton, Boots Ennis, Andy Cruz, right? It's a whole new ballgame for him. Has Jack Catterall reinvented himself already?
Well, not reinvented himself yet, but what it is when people say, I just want to challenge myself, you can say that all day long, but you need to do something about it. And so he has. So he said, look, I need better competition. As you say, even in the gym, I'll be training with these people. So I need to challenge myself. I'll make that decision, feel the fear and do it anyway. I'll go. I'll back myself on this. A load of people make pronouncements, and social media at the moment gives them an opportunity to do that all the time, and they don't move. Carl Froch, yeah, the Darren Till fight. Well, defecate or get off that part. Do it because you actually trust yourself to do it. He has trusted himself. He has said it's make or break in a way, because either I can live with this or I can't. But at least he will know, and it's really important to do that. So yes, he has bet on himself, to use it. Something a phrase we're talking about, and That's great to see.
It's fantastic. The other progression that I like to see in boxing that we heard about this past week, it looks like, as much as we shit on the Jake Paul, Gervonta Davis matchup and how ridiculous it is. And I want to get in, we're going to get into that into a second. At least on the undercard, it looks like Alicia Baumgartner is going to be fighting against a Canadian. And this fight is now going to be contested for 12 rounds. Championship fight, championship rounds, championship time for the females in boxing. Are we finally going to see the change? I'm not saying you do it for all of them, but at least for the championship fights. You want to compete like a champion, be a champion. This is, you know what I mean? If we're talking equality, I'm not saying that you go out there and you fight dudes and dudes fight girls and stuff like that, but I'm saying let's let them fight. This is what females of boxing have been asking for. Let them have it. Let them perform because you know as well as I do, Steve, as of recently, the females have been putting on better fights, more exciting, more entertaining, more crowd friendly, maybe not the more technical for the boxing eye to pick apart, but they're fun as hell fights to watch. And when we're going on Netflix, isn't this what it's all about? Because outside of that, we have the spectacle, let's get into it here, of Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis, where it looks like the rules of this have been laid out, where, it's 10 3-minute rounds. I think they're wearing, 42-ounce gloves. They're wearing mittens. And I think that Gervonta Davis is only allowed to throw declawed cats at Jake Paul during this fight. And they're going to be wearing roller skates, I hear. They're going to be wearing roller skates. This is crazy. They didn't go with the shrinking ring, but they did go with the roller skates this time. So have you heard about these rules? In all seriousness, though, with they were trying to get it down from 12-ounce to 10-ounce gloves. And I think the whole thing got misconstrued, because here's what I'm saying. And I think that this is what that news reporter was saying, or journalist, or whatever they're calling themselves nowadays, when he asked the question about this. And it got spun a little bit, where they were trying to say, well, I'll go down to 10-ounce gloves. Well, I'll do blah, 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 blah. No. Here's what I'm saying. Gervonta Davis should be wearing 8-ounce gloves. Jake Paul should be wearing 12-ounce gloves. If there's that much of a size and weight discrepancy in this quote, exhibition fight, let's even the playing field then. Unless you're a bully, Jake. Unless you're doing this to be a bully, right? You can talk all you want about you're doing it for Netflix and for numbers, and you don't need credit from fat bozos that do podcasts. Okay, why are you trying to sue them then? But at the end of the day, what you do need is you need credibility, because now you're a ranked fighter and you're doing this on top of a card that only has one other male fight on it. All the rest of fights are the female fights, because you know that those are going to be the most entertaining thing about that night. So don't kid yourself. I say 12-ounce gloves for Jake, 8-ounce gloves for Tank. What do you think?
It's a really good idea. And it won't happen, but it's a really good idea. And the legitimacy thing is I really struggle with, because I just don't think that, I'm not sure that Jake Paul knows where he is with this either. I think the pull to make money and get attention is strong as I want a title. He said, I did a podcast recently. He did a 5-year plan, and fighting Alexander Usyk was in an MMA ring, which Alexander Usyk's been having some fun with, was at number 5, and he said, I should be number 1, and I'm waiting. 2 of the other things were nice things. I want to have 3 kids. I don't know if he's asked his partner if she's happy with that, and he wants to marry her, which is great. The other 2 things are, I want to win a title, and I want to become a billionaire. And win a title was at number 1. So why are you fighting Gervonta Davis then? Why are you doing that in an exhibition when there was a ready-made opportunity, Sanchez versus Dorticos, there's a ready-made opportunity. So why are you saying you want to fight Gervonta Davis? And I don't quite think he really knows himself. I'm not criticizing him for that because he's come up from that situation. Very difficult to leave that situation and say, this boxing thing has different rules. And I think he's probably looking at, well, everything's in play now, as I said earlier. So I can do these things. Not yet. Can't do them yet. We don't have that fluidity yet. So there's still a barrier between this is legitimate and this is the Wild West. So actually, this is the exhibition. This is your belts and everything else. So I don't quite understand what he's doing at the moment. But I mean, talking of betting, they had a £2 million bet together, didn't they? Allegedly, which Gervonta Davis has gone back on because he said he's not having £2 million. I don't care what the F happens. Well, that's kind of accepting that you may well lose, mate. So boxing's a confidence game. So I'm kind of thinking, are you entertaining the idea that you might get knocked the F out by Jake Paul, which might happen? I personally don't think he will. I personally think he'll get frustrated. But we will hopefully find out what kind of boxer he is, because I don't think Jake Paul knows what kind of boxer he is yet.
I also think that Jake Paul should probably be smart and wear 2 cups in this fight, because Tank Davis likes to throw that body shot, and now against a guy that size, that body shot is going to be a jab. It's going to be at eye level. So when he goes to throw that body shot, it's going to be a little bit lower on a big guy like that. Jake's going to get caught. He's going to get. That's how this fight ends. That would be fantastic. Gervonta Davis disqualified from the fight, right? Jake Paul gets the decision on it because Gervonta Davis blasted him in his pills and looks at him and says, "You should have put 3 kids at the top of the list, dummy."
And at the end of it, and Gervonta Davis is doing all the bad guy stuff. They're all booing him. He goes, and Jake Paul can't get up and take the plaudits because he's in the fetal position, rolling around on the ring and dry retching. That would be hilarious, in my view.
Listen, it can't be any worse than what happened this weekend with MMA star trying to box Mr. Vanderlei Silva. I don't know if you heard about that one or not. Fantastic. Hopefully Vanderlei is okay. Sometimes you just have to call it quits. And the fact that he was headbutting in this fight and fouling and basically it was bare knuckle fight with Degale. There was a lot of headbutts being thrown in fights from guys that aren't traditional boxers this past weekend. It was wild stuff. But unfortunately, Vanderlei Silva got knocked out by a dude wearing a tuxedo during the melee when all of this stuff happened. And they're still fighting around his dead carcass in the middle of the ring. Today, I hear they're still fighting today around him. They've taken apart the ring. He's still sleeping on the boards in the back of the truck, and the fight is still happening. Unreal stuff. Did you hear about this?
I saw it, and I wasn't sure who hit him. I think he might have got a stray elbow in the face when he was trying to get back into the melee. Excuse me, I should be at the center of this melee. I'm the one that was involved in this. I think he just got a stray elbow, but he went down like a sack of shite. And it's not a good look for someone who is a cool killer like Vanderlei Silva.
No, you certainly do not. You do not do yourself any favors in that instance. And one of those favors would end up being on a Mount Rushmore. Let's talk about this very quickly before we go, Steve, because it looks like the discussion has come up again. Because, according to Boots Ennis, Terrence Crawford has started a campaign to put himself on the Mount Rushmore of boxing, which is kind of weird. That's almost as silly as calling yourself a mentor to somebody. It's not a title that you give yourself. Sorry, I don't give a shit what you think. And you don't put yourself on Mount Rushmore of the sport that you are currently taking part in. That's for other people to decide. But in doing so, I think Boots is right on this one. And then he gave what he thinks he should have on the Mount Rushmore. So I'm going to ask you about your Mount Rushmore. Let's get a little bit, weird about it. Here's his. Here's Boots's. Okay. And this is how I know that there's some local town favoritism going on in this one. Sugar Ray Leonard, Roy Jones Jr., Pernell Whitaker, and James Toney. I think you know what this is? You know what this is when you're building that Mount Rushmore, you can see this turned into an M. Night Shyamalan movie where all the budget was spent at the very beginning to get you hooked. And by the time you got to the end, it was just this disaster. It was off the cliff. You're like, that's just a dude in a hat. What are you talking about? That's exactly what happened here, I think, right? I get it. What do you think?
Pernell Whitaker, I mean, this is the issue, and I know I keep doing this. You would need several Mount Rushmores, wouldn't you? You would need several. You need several for those people who got the plaudits in boxing, and some of those people would be on there. Sugar Ray would be on there. I might put Hearns on there. I'd put Muhammad Ali on there. Just to be boring. But you'd need another one for boxing, and Pernell Whitaker would be on there probably. For me, there'd be others who would be on there. And then you'd need one for the business of boxing. And Titchner, I'm sorry, and I'd hate to see this myself, and I know you would too, but for the business of boxing, Don King would be on there. I'm afraid you'd need an awful lot of work because the hair is going to be sticking up. So it's going to be over and I can see your face here. The hair is going to be sticking up over the cliff, but he would probably be in there. This is the problem with Mount Rushmore's, isn't it? Because there are lots of people who would say he did an awful lot of good for boxing. If not, and there's a question, for boxers. But people would say he's got that name recognition, and so his boxers did.
Yeah, I'd have to agree on the Don King thing for that because of Don King being the character that he was for the longest time. And I mean, that guy was pro-Trump before Trump was Trump. That guy was pro-America all the way in everything that he became the character that you saw in the Rocky movies. He became that character. And yeah, it brought a lot of eyes, good, bad, or indifferent to the sport of boxing. There's no doubt about it. The problem, yes, and this comes into where you have to separate the artist that was Don King in his promoting abilities back then to the art. You know what I mean? Because Don King was such a POS to the boxers that he worked with, ripping everybody off allegedly, doing all of these bad things, allegedly unaliving somebody. You don't end up in those situations unless you're walking down a certain path, right? But you're right. Don King does have to be on there. Now, when we're talking about the world of boxers, for myself, I can totally see Sugar Ray Leonard on there. I think Sugar Ray Leonard is a generational phenom when it comes to boxing. I think Terrence Crawford is probably the closest that this generation has right now to a Sugar Ray Leonard. That is exactly 100% factual. The way that he works, the way that he boxes, the way that he fights, the way that he's willing to obviously now step up against much bigger, much larger competition that everybody says he has no business being in there with and performing the way that he did, that screams of Sugar Ray Leonard to me. That's how Sugar Ray Leonard became, synonymous with boxing to me growing up. That was what he was. When you had all of those other guys, you had the Marvin Haglers of the world. You know what I mean? You had guys that were supposed to kill Sugar Ray Leonard, and it didn't happen. So I can see him on a Mount Rushmore like that of boxers. I love me some Pernell Whitaker, and I've said that he's a better boxer than, say, a Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, is another guy that you'd have to put up there because of what he's done for boxing. I don't think that there's four heads on Mount Rushmore anymore. or you have to have multiples, like you say. I just don't think that that's a thing. I also have a hair in front of my eye, and that's really bugging me right now. So whatever. This is the beautiful thing about podcasting, Steve. We don't have to worry about taking a break to get hairs out in front of our eyes.
Yeah,
The
it's
James
quite right.
Toney thing, the James Toney thing is bizarre to me, and that's clearly because he was just watching a James Toney tape previously. James was at the gym recently, or James is a family friend. Now, that's not a knock on James Toney and James Toney's career. I mean, Randy Couture really likes James Toney, from what I hear. Uh, but I don't think if you're talking about heavyweights, James Toney, really?
But you've not got George Foreman on there, and you've not got Muhammad Ali on there, and you've not got Usyk on there, and Usyk is a generational talent. So you know
you don't even have Tyson Fury on there. You know how pissed he's going to be?
He's going to call me a shithouse. And I didn't mention Cole Froch being on there either. And he did knock somebody out in front of 80,000 people, Tidster. I mean, he would never mention that because he's very modest. But he did.
Too. I guarantee you, he's walking around a heavyweight.
I have to say that on his latest YouTube channel, he's got his wife there. He starts with let's have a laugh, because when you laugh, you get excited for the podcast, don't you? And she just looks at him, right?
Can you imagine? Can you imagine the therapy sessions that she goes through because of living with Carl Froch?
No, I think I think probably it's a different fella out away from the YouTube. I think it's a different fella. I'm saying that, because you're across the Atlantic and I'm not. I'm saying that because I believe it in my heart, Carl. I believe that you are a lovely fella, and the 80,000 thing, keep telling me, because I keep forgetting. They did a Q&A. I didn't watch it because I just thought, I know what's going to be. Tell us about when you beat George Groves. Oh, right, yeah.
Right. Well, you know what it would be. Everybody would sit down, everybody be there. Carl would come walking out on stage, sit behind the table and go, okay, everybody got your notes? All right, let's start with question number 1, please. Yes. Tell us about your fight with, does that say Groves? Groves. Oh, great question. What a wonderful question. I haven't been asked that question in 7 seconds.
Tell us if you're going to fight Darren Till. That's not a question I asked. I'm going.
Get him out of here. Unbelievable. Well, listen, I'm excited about boxing, Steve. I'm excited because we got some big fights coming up, and I'm not even talking about the Jake Paul stuff. I mean, we've got Devin Haney, Brian Norman Jr. is coming up soon. I am so excited about this fight. I love this is going to be a coming of age for Brian Norman Jr., I believe. This is going to be an out with the old, in with the new. And the new is something that we've been preaching about since we started doing this. And I'm looking forward to it. Almost as much as I'm looking forward to seeing what Steve Swift is going to be talking about over at World Weary Guy 1. What do you got, buddy?
Well, yeah. Well, yesterday I did a few things yesterday. I dislike Bruce Springsteen's work quite heavily. I'm sorry. I'm the only person in the world who does. And what I like Born to Run, but I really hate. I really hate.
Oh, that's because you guys lost that whole T thing. I can understand that. That's fair.
Listen. The Alex Harvey band tell it much better on Boston Tea Party than he ever did.
You don't like Wrapped Up Like a Douche, the Roller in the Night. You don't like that Bruce Springsteen stuff. That one band, Manfred Mann, took and made it absolutely popular, but everybody forgets that Bruce wrote it.
The thing is, I was, the kind of downbeat sort of stuff that a friend of mine tried to get me to like. He sat down and made me listen. I thought, I don't want this. I'm not a great fan of acoustic albums and that kind of thing. But Nebraska is coming out again. And it's coming out with electric outtakes. I suppose he did those tracks and thought that's not what this album should be. And one of them is another version of Born in the USA. And it's bloody great. And it's the only time I thought, oh, so there's that. I also revisited an album from my youth because it's getting the deluxe treatment. And it's 1985's Theatre of Pain from Motley Crue. I was going to say Shout at the Devil. That was the album before it. But I love that album. And the thing is, listening to it again, it's the only time they've tried new stuff and it worked. But of course, 2 years later, you've got Girls, 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 which I absolutely dislike. And I'm glad it's coming out.
The song, right?
The album, Girls, 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 the whole thing. I'm not keen. But you see, I was a very great fan of Theatre of Pain, and I wore that album out on my Walkman. I wore that tape out.
Wow, we were so at different times, walking down different paths in the year 1985, Steve, because I used to laugh at all of the Hairspray makeup kids all the time because I was a hardcore skater punk kid. So I was listening to, the DRIs, the Descendants, all of the Circle Jerks, all of the skate punk hardcore stuff back then. Even Slayer, who I still consider to be a punk band. Don't kid yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. They are so metal, they're punk. That's right. Shout out to all of you Slayer loving mother effers out there. Shout out Blue Meanie, who was just at the Slayer show, sent me some awesome pictures. Oh, and by the way, Blue Meanie, go Birds. Listen, Steve, as always, it's a pleasure. I can't wait to do another one of these things again. You know what you got to do now, right? You absolutely know what you got to do. You got to go out there. You got to tackle that day. But remember, ladies and gentlemen, when tackling, practice safely and always remember, Wu-Tang's for the children. Tuck that chin.